It was supposed to be a peaceful retreat. After months of burnout, endless meetings, and city noise, Alex had planned a getaway to Europe, a trip into the heart of forgotten countryside. The brochure showed beautiful landscapes, rustic cottages, and charming cobblestone paths. Untouched by modern life, it was perfect, or so Alex thought. The journey started, a plane ride, and a train that snaked through green valleys and rolling hills. But it was the last leg, a 2-hour bus ride to a village so remote it didn't even appear on most maps. That hinted something wasn't quite right. The bus driver, an old man with a face weathered by time, looked surprised when Alex mentioned the village name. He asked twice to be sure, then shrugged, muttering something under his breath that Alex couldn't make out. The road narrowed as they approached the village. Trees lined either side, growing so close together their branches intertwined, blocking out most of the sunlight. The bus stopped at the edge of the village, and Alex was the only passenger to disembark. The driver simply nodded, eyes filled with quiet concern, before driving off into the distance, leaving Alex standing alone. The village at first glance seemed quaint, exactly like the photos, a place frozen in time, but the air was still, unnaturally so, as if the wind itself avoided this place. The few villagers Alex saw moved sluggish, their eyes downcast, as though weighted down by an invisible burden. They never smiled, never waved, just stared from behind half-closed shutters or through the cracks in the old wooden doors. Alex tried to shake off the uneasy feeling and headed to the small inn. The innkeeper, a gaunt man with hollow cheeks and a distant gaze, barely spoke as he handed over a room key. His hand trembled when Alex mentioned staying for a week. The first night, Alex awake to the sound of faint whispering just outside the window. At first, it seemed like wind through the trees, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Alex rose, peeking through the curtains, but saw only shadows moving in the mist that now clung to the village like a living thing. The next morning, the whispers were gone, but the village had even more eerie silence. The villagers avoided Alex entirely, heads bowed, shuffling past like ghosts of their former selves. Every attempt at conversation was met with awkward pauses or a hurried retreat. By the third day, the whispers returned, this time louder and closer, as if they were inside the room. The old innkeeper refused to acknowledge Alex's growing panic, simply muttering, "It's the village, it chooses." That night, unable to sleep, Alex decided to leave. The feeling of dread had grown unbearable. But the road out of the village seemed different, twisting, looping, leaning back into the heart of the village no matter which direction Alex took. Hours passed in a frantic haze of running and confusion until finally, exhausted and disoriented, Alex collapsed near the village old chapel. It was then that the village emerged, their faces gaunt, eyes hollow. They encircled Alex, their lips moving in unison, whispering ancient words in a language Alex never heard. The mist thickened, swirling around them like a living entity. There was no escape, no way out. Just as the cold tendrils of the mist reached Alex's skin, there was a blinding flash of light. When Alex woke, it was morning. The villagers were gone. The chapel stood silent, abandoned, as if no one had set foot in it for years. The village, once seemingly alive, was now nothing but a ruin, The bus stop where Alex had been dropped off was no longer there. There was no sign of the inn, no sign of the people, only the stillness of a place long forgotten by time. Weak and terrified, Alex stumbled out of the village, following that seemed like a faint trail, only to be found hours later by a wandering shepherd. That man looked at Alex's wide eyes when he heard where Alex had come from. "That village," he whispered, crossing himself. "It's appeared over 50 years ago." Alex didn't speak much about the village after returning home. The ordeal felt like a foggy nightmare, something best left buried. But late at night, when sleep refused to come, Alex would lie awake, feeling the weight of those whispers, the cold mist, and those hollow-eyed villagers. Months passed, and life gradually returned to normal. Though Alex found it hard to shake the feeling of being watched, it was subtle at first. A shadow seemed to linger a bit too long on a street corner, a face in a crowd that looked eerily familiar. But the worst part was the dreams. In them, Alex was back in the village, only this time the roads never ended. The villagers never stopped whispering, and the mist was always just a step behind. Then, one day, a letter arrived. The envelope was old and worn, the ink smudged, as if it had been through many hands before reaching its destination. There was no return address, but still on the back, a strange, intricate symbol was unmistakable. It was the same symbol Alex had been carved into the chapel's door on a fateful night. With trembling hands, Alex opened it. Inside was a single piece of parchment, the edges frayed, the writing shaky but clear. "You left, but the village has chosen you. You must return before it comes for you." The words sent a chill down Alex's spine. The village? How could it be real? It had vanished years ago, so said the shepherd who found Alex. But the letter felt real, tangible proof that whatever happened wasn't an hallucination. Despite every instinct screaming to burn the letter and forget, Alex couldn't ignore it. There was something pulling, dragging Alex back to the place that shouldn't exist. Unable to resist, Alex booked a flight back to Europe. This time there was no excitement, only dread, a gnawing at the edges of sanity. On the plane, Alex caught glimpses of the symbol from the letter. On the flight magazine etched into the back of a seat, even in condensation of the window. Upon landing, the journey back to the village began. The train ride felt more oppressive than before. The landscapes duller, the valleys darker. This time the bus driver didn't ask twice. He simply gave Alex a knowing look, as though he would expect his return all along. His silence was unnerving. As the bus pulled up to the village, Alex felt the cold grip of fear tightening. But what lay ahead was far worse than anything he imagined. The village wasn't the ruin it had appeared to be on Alex's departure. Instead, it looked alive. The same crooked cottages lined in the street, the same cobblestones, but there was movement, too much movement. The villagers, once sluggish and distant, now walked with purpose. Their eyes were no longer hollow, but glimmered with something darker, something alive yet dead inside. The inn stood as it had before, but its windows were lit with a soft, eerie glow. Against bad judgment, Alex stepped inside. The innkeeper was there, looking just as he had, though his eyes were more intense, like he was waiting for something. "You have come back," he said, voice low. "The village always brings back those we chooses." "What do you mean?" Alex asked. but deep down the answer was already there, lurking. You have felt it, haven't you? It's been calling you to ever since you left the village. It doesn't let it go. Those who leave never truly escape. As the innkeeper spoke, the air grew colder, the whispers returned, faint but rising. Coming from every corner of the room, the mist outside thickened, creeping closer, swirling with unnatural life. Alex turned to leave, but the innkeeper blocked the door, his face twisted, no longer human, as if the village itself was inside him, warping his features. You can't leave, he rasped. Not this time. Panic set in. Alex stumbled back, tripping over the old rug. Falling hard onto the floor, the whispers became deafening, echoing inside Alex's head, each word heavy with malice. Through blurred vision, Alex saw the villagers gathering outside, their faces pressed against the windows, eyes glowing with their strange light. Desperate, Alex ran through the back of the door of the inn, sprinting into the night. The mist was everywhere, thick and suffocating. But it wasn't just a mist anymore, it was alive. It reached out like hands, cold and clawing, trying to drag Alex back to the heart of the village. The road twisted again, leading nowhere, trapping Alex in the endless loop. It was as if the village had come alive, its streets shifting, bending, closing in. No matter which way Alex turned, the village was there, always ahead, never behind. Finally, after what felt like hours of running, Alex collapsed under the foot of the chapel. The villagers were there, waiting. Their whispers were louder than ever, filling the air with ancient words that seemed to wrap reality itself. At the center of them stood the innkeeper, his face now fully consumed by the village darkness. You were chosen, he said softly. You can't run from it. The mist surged forward, enveloping Alex in the freezing embrace. There was no escape this time. The village had reclaimed what was its own. Weeks later, another traveler arrived in the area, asking about a certain forgotten village. The locals shook their heads, telling tales of how it had vanished long ago. But if you listen closely, they warned. You might hear the whispers in the mist, calling for the next to be chosen.